Welcome to Tommy Solo's Famous Friends. This is where I get to chat with people I've connected with over the years in the world of arts and entertainment, and today I'm making a brand new connection with legendary singer. We all know him from the band UFO, Phil Mogg. Welcome to the show, Phil.
Oh, well, good afternoon, Mr. Tommy Solo. Here we are.
It is absolutely my pleasure and honor to be speaking with you today. So, we all know about the legendary band UFO. I mean, God, I got into the band back in the early 70s, but you started this band way back in 1968, and there are over 40 albums that I could find. So, how did you actually get into singing in the first place, and what led you to UFO?
Sorry to be fickle here. Wasn't it 1969-70? I'm not sure about that, but I didn't want you sort of digging away the years there.
Well, it was a long time ago. Long time ago.
Yeah.
68,
all right,
69, whatever, yeah.
A long time ago.
Yes.
It's something you know when you go out and you see a rock band and you go, whoa, I like this. It's that kind of thing where I went out with a bunch of people that were like 4 years older than me when I was about 15, 16. And they said, you got to come and see this band. And that was, you get to see the Animals, or Clapton was playing with John Mayall, and you get to see, it was the High Numbers, which was a Who, and then Small Faces, blah, blah, blah. So if you get bitten, then you kind of don't lose that enjoyment, the excitement of it all. So I'm sure there's a band for everyone when you go out there. But there was a whole load of bands coming up in that period of between the late 60s through to the early 70s. There was a load of stuff. So you got excited. You went out, you bought records. I've got an album. That stuff, which I'm sure quite a lot of people remember.
Editor's note, this interview was recorded over the telephone, and as I was speaking to Phil about his early influences, somebody else was trying to call me at the same time. This is the only issue with telephone interviews. Anyway, that's what happened, and it does sound a little bit out of place when we get back into it, but now you know why. Okay, back to the show. So you were talking about the early years and all the influential bands. That was really the golden era for rock and roll, wasn't it?
It was fantastic. No, it was great fun. It was, I'm sure you get that piece of excitement. If you find a band or you see a band that you've never seen before, and if they can make the hairs on your arms go up, that's pretty good, I would say. First time hearing a Les Paul through a Marshall or a Strat played in a certain way, all that stuff was very exciting, great fun.
No kidding. I consider myself very lucky to have been a kid back in those days. And I have to say, when I first heard UFO Phenomenon, that was something else, because you were heavy but very melodic. And I have to say that holds true today. I was listening to Sunny Side of Heaven before we started this call, and it's heavy rock, but it's very melodic, and that is absolutely my favorite.
Sailing like a sailor in a 10-4 scale, but I'm just that sunny side of heaven.
Well, thank you. That's funny enough. I've just listened to it. Really got to remind yourself what you're up to. And so I just looked through it. I enjoy it, so I don't mean that in a, I love this, but I mean I kind of enjoy it. It's good kind of rock.
Absolutely. It's some really wonderful music. And now, I know that UFO has officially disbanded, and I mean, you had a long ride with that band, whether it was 69 or 70 or what year it was a really long ride, and some awesome music over the years. Like I say, there's over 40 albums that I could find. Now, you're releasing Mogg Motel with Cleopatra Records, and from what I understand, there are going to be 3 separate vinyl releases. I believe it's September 12th, there will be a red vinyl album released, and on the 13th...
I think it's the 6th, and
I
think you're right about the vinyl. It looks like we're going vinyl crazy.
Yes, it's actually September 6th, a 12-inch red album, and then September 13th, 12-inch white, and on the 20th, 12-inch 180-gram black. So that's interesting. There is, I know, an upsurge in reinvigoration for the love of vinyl these days. Is it strictly being released on vinyl, or is it going to be on other formats as well?
It's on CD too. Yeah, it's on CD, and I think they've gone for the multicoloured vinyl because vinyl's quite, up there at the moment, which I'm very happy about because I've just bought a new vinyl deck, and I like vinyl. Yeah, so they're doing it on CD too, I believe.
Okay. Now, the dates I have, these
Oh,
are...
and there's that new thing I've heard of. It's called streaming. I thought it was steaming at first, but then I realized they meant streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How the music business has changed over the years. Boy, oh boy. I mean, when you guys
Yes, rather
started...
puzzling.
Yeah. There's a lot...
Rather puzzling, Holmes.
Yeah, very puzzling. It is. And I can't imagine what it would be like for new bands starting out today. There's so many artists out there that have their stuff up on Spotify and whatnot. It's kind of hard to dig through it. I've seen these memes where, I grew up with all the best music and so on. And that's true for us. There is a lot of good new music out there as well. It's just hard to find it, with everything that's out there.
Yeah, but if you dig around on there, you can find some great stuff. What was it? I heard the Flaherty Brotherhood, which I believe is an American band, Cold Black Water, on, where stuff pops up on your YouTubey thing. And it's a really cool song. And so stuff pops up all the time.
Absolutely, and you just have to look for it. And I still like to watch bands live. Now, are you touring to back up the new album?
Oh, we've been debating that bit, but hopefully what we was going to try and do was do some sort of showcase, old-fashioned, old-time showcase where you go, you play your album and do the thing, but we're looking for a venue to play. So a couple of gigs will be on the way this year, and next year we was looking at maybe doing some festivals.
Okay, that's my go-to. Personally, as a musician, I stopped playing bars years ago, but I love to be there at a festival, especially family-friendly events for me. To see the little kids up there dancing and singing along, that just does it for me.
Yeah, no, I used to love those, was it Bill Graham festivals? They used to do those great festivals down the green.
Okay.
Died in a helicopter crash.
Editor's note, Bill Graham was well known as a promoter in the San Francisco Bay Area during the 1960s, who not only put on the free shows in the park, but was also associated with his productions at the Fillmore West and East, and for promoting 1960s counterculture such as Jefferson Airplane, Big Brother and the Holding Company, The Grateful Dead, etc. Now back to the show.
Anyway, he used to do those fabulous concerts there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bands that came up around the same time that, frankly, couldn't do their albums live. And that's one thing I always appreciated about UFO. When you watch any of the live videos, the band was always right there. And you've had a knack of finding the right players. I mean, I was heavily influenced as a guitarist by Michael Schenker, but he's not the only one. You had Bernie Marsden in the band for a while, and I'm curious, who's in the band now? I noticed that you've got a really good female backup singer. Who else is in the band with you now?
Well, Neil Carter, who I played with since like the 80s, played back in the 80s, but he's playing some lead on there. But Tommy Gentry, the other lead player, was actually a lead player, they kind of bounce. I like where they bounce off one another. They're different styles, but they can complement one another in the same way, So Neil's got a different feel. And Tommy is a bit like a greyhound out the track. So they work well together.
And we'll be right back after this.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of young people, when they're coming up in music, don't understand, the art of playing in a band.
Did you ever hear Dick Wagner and Michael, what's his name, do the opening intro to Lou Reed's live Rock and Roll Animal. Dick Wagner, they do the dual guitar at the beginning.
Okay.
Have you heard that one? It's live.
I'm sure I have. I'll have to go back and give it another listen.
It's that do-do-do-do-do. It's a masterpiece in twin guitar playing, actually. And they're American.
Yeah, well, the thing about, I find with two guitarists in a band, especially starting out, a lot of times the two guys are playing the same thing, and it's not just guitar players, but if you've got a bass player and a drummer, for example, who understand the art of playing in a band, and you've got two guitar players who aren't just stepping on each other's toes and always going, look at me,
No, sorry, I've actually really just thought about it. Yeah, God. Chuck in Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, great.
Yeah, no kidding.
No,
yeah.
Very good point.
Yeah, so that's something that some people have a knack of finding the right players and really listening to what people are doing. And obviously you have that, because I've never seen a live video where the band wasn't just super tight. So kudos to you. I mean, I'm assuming that you have a lot to do with the arrangements and so on.
Oh, you mean the subtle arrangement?
Yeah.
No, sorry, I'm thinking about one doesn't want to tread on too many toes. No, we have you chat about it and sort out the arrangement to whatever suits the number, but it's a very light-hearted affair. There's none of that vexing and stressing, so we did very well on that part. People have been in different situations where it's a little bit more tense, but this was quite easy.
Well, that's interesting, because personally, as an artist myself, I've not been able to have a band where democracy really worked, but I found that there are some acts out there who everybody really gets along and the chemistry is great. For me, I've had to just say, look, we're going to play these songs like I recorded them on the album, and this is the way it goes. I envy anybody who can just have that friendship in the band. It seems like you have.
Yeah, that's the fickle thing to find, especially in bands, is, that easy flow, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that good chemistry. That's not easy to find in a band. I think for a lot of artists, like in my case, I grew up in a small town in northern Ontario, Canada, and I ended up in Toronto, where I didn't know anybody, and you end up in a band with complete strangers. And I feel like we had a similar situation to England in the small town where you played with friends, but there wasn't really
I used to like that. That was cool.
Yeah, there wasn't really anything happening in the small town here. So you ended up having to go to the big city and just playing with strangers. What was it like?
Hang on, I have to ask you one thing very quickly. Does Neil Young do a song called There Is a Town in North Ontario?
Yes. There's a town
helpless, is it?
Yes, helpless, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I suddenly went, that's a bloody Neil Young song.
Yes, and a lot of people believe that was my hometown of North Bay, Ontario. I'm not really certain, but a lot of people believe that. There are certain geographical hotspots for talent, and I believe that my hometown was one of those. Where did you grow up in England?
In London, just outside London, in a salubrious place called Enfield.
Okay.
But it's 30 minutes on the train and you can be in dark Soho.
Okay. And what was the musical environment like when you were growing up around there?
Well, I managed to see Eric Clapton playing with John Mayall's blues band at the Manor House pub in Tottenham, and I do believe he was playing a Gibson Les Paul through a Marshall, but he had red Cuban heel boots on, which were very trendy back then. The kind of Beatle boots, but they were red. I vividly remember that. And the tight denim jeans, he looked great. Guitar sounded like a violin. That was really good. The Animals were playing down the road at the Club Norrie, Tottenham. Eric Burdon was giving it large. We had Terry Reid, Joe Cocker playing the Revolution Club down in, I think it was a fancier part of town, but they were absolutely knockout. And if you was a kid, you'd go, wow, these blokes are really good. So there was all that stuff going on, and that's with ignoring the charts. Yeah, it was a real explosion.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, I've spoken to at least one artist in the past who was involved with Radio Caroline, the pirate radio, and I don't know a lot about the UK other than what everybody knows about the big British invasion and so on. But I imagine as a kid growing up and having the BBC as your only choice must have been somewhat frustrating, I guess. Did you experience the pirate radio as a listener?
Yeah, I remember that when that came out, it was without wishing to get anywhere political, but yeah, the British Broadcasting Corporation, I think at that point they thought they owned everything. Everything was under their control. And of course they tried suppressing that kind of, unless they was in control of it, you couldn't make a move. So they set up that boat outside of territorial waters and started broadcasting, which is really quite natty. And I remember that period because it was where you could actually listen to rock music that was coming in until the BBC suddenly realised, oh, maybe we're missing a point here. And things started to change. But if it hadn't been for the offshore Radio Caroline, that we wouldn't have broken down that bit of getting rock on radio.
It's interesting, that there's been so much opposition to new music over the years. And it seems like it's an evolutionary thing. But back in the 50s and the 60s especially, it seemed like there was really an iron hand going up against rock and roll.
It was a strange transition from that period, but it's kind of really interesting how things evolved from there. And it's mostly down to people, fans. It's all about the fans. They dictate what goes on, and that's it.
Well, I feel like every generation is looking for something new, and that seems to be a natural part of evolution to me. I'm very happy to know that artists like yourself are still moving ahead and still being innovative. I don't know how you do it. My take on things is that music is the doctor, and I'm always trying to refill my prescription with it. But what keeps you moving forward with the music, and what keeps you coming up with new ideas?
Well, I haven't got much else to do. Think about it. I mean, I love my dog. The car's okay, and the gardening's fine, but it's always going to be that little something, the itch, where you want to go off and sing. Yeah, there's always going to be that itch. I think for anyone, involved in rock, or if they've been bitten by it early, it won't leave you. So that's it.
That's right.
Probably have a rock band at your funeral.
Yeah, that's true. I said that music is the doctor, but for some people like yourself, it seems like music is life.
Well, it's most pleasant. I usually play movie soundtracks and stuff, and the whole thing's quite therapeutic. I should recommend it to your fans.
Yeah, everybody go out and buy a new record today. And especially September 6th, we need to go out and buy the new Phil Mogg Mogg Motel. Again, there's 3 vinyl releases, and it's available on CD through Cleopatra Records here in North America. Are they also distributing in the UK for you?
No, that's SPV Steamhammer.
Okay.
And, yeah, it would appear they're doing very well. I was looking for a sinister plan. No, they appear to be doing very well.
I've seen a couple of the videos, and it's really good music. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
It's definitely up to your standard, which is very high, I should add.
And we'll be right back after this.
I recently watched a video that was talking about how UFO is the most underrated classic rock band of all time. And I've got to say, folks, if you don't know who UFO is, you've got to seriously have to check it out. I mean, this band, I don't know how many bands out there have got over 40 albums, even though you've been at it for so long. And every one is an amazing album.
Well, thank you. I'm writing a check out as we speak.
Yeah, make it out in
It's of a
pounds.
limited amount, but I'm sure it'll buy you a small meal and a coffee. No, seriously. Thank you. That sounds great.
A small meal and a coffee. That's about what I get from my streaming revenue. I hope yours is better than that. But anyway, oh, I should ask you, what's next for you?
I was thinking about doing like one of those, you know, those sort of gigs you do, sort of a cameo. You do a gig for the album, you do the album. I was looking for a venue where we could do like a bit of a showcase.
Right.
Thank you, showcase, yeah. And yeah, knock out this and have a good time party showcase thing.
Well, we'll all be waiting for that, and hopefully it will be recorded and posted onto YouTube as well. You know, before we hit record earlier, we talked about a couple of things, Phil, that I wanted to make sure that we got in the interview. So if you don't mind, just a recap on that. We talked about how you start your demos, and you told me that you're using an old 4-track cassette deck. Is that right?
Oh yeah, when we actually started doing stuff, we used those little cassette players. So it was one of those things where you get the backing track and then sing into another one, originally starting off, because we didn't have the facilities for recording. And then later on I've been using that little TX 4-track cassette player for recordings, which is fantastic.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, a number of years ago, I was doing demos on a 4-track cassette recorder as well, and I got really good at that. But then they changed everything up, you know, and with the exception of what I'm able to do with my podcast, when it comes to digital recording, I have to go into the studio. It's just beyond me.
Do you know, I bought the digital stuff, and I just can't, I don't get it. So I bought off of eBay the little TX 4-track, and the cassette player's great. You've got one track for your backing, you've got 3 tracks to use, and you can punch in them just for great for stopping and starting.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I used to bounce 3 tracks down to 1, and that gave me 3 more to work with for demos. But
now you see, you're well in advance of me. I have to get someone else to do that. Yeah.
well, you know, you hear people of a certain age saying that they need to get their grandson to show them how to use their stuff. And I think I'm about 10 or 12 years younger than you are. So maybe I'm just that much more with it through the technology. But we both have a ways to go there.
I guess it's what it works for you. It's just that I found that the cassette tape thing so easy. I was going to say, yeah, a monkey could do it. So easy that I'm kind of stuck with it, really. It makes me happy.
There's merit in simplicity, that's for sure. Now, I wanted to mention the band name UFO. Now, I know you're doing a solo thing now, but is it true that the name came from a pub?
Oh, no, it was a club. They had a club down on Tottenham Court Road, and that was called the UFO. I even think the Floyd played there once, but we was looking for something short and simple, kind of like The Who, something you could plaster somewhere and it was easy to do. And UFO suggested that. And we said, yeah, let's go for that.
Yeah, that's definitely a smart marketing move. There have been bands like the Quicksilver Messenger Service, you know, for example, that...
Oh, I've got the album.
Yeah, but a lot of people wouldn't grasp that whole name, you know, or remember it. Didn't they change their name just to Quicksilver at a certain point?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
They had that fabulous album with Who Do You Love, the Bo Diddley stuff.
Right, yeah.
Really long, very sort of 70s, that period.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so UFO is definitely a simple and easy name to remember, but I was just struck by the fact that it wasn't just from watching space movies, B movies, whatever, and grabbing the name out of the...
No, that was a sensible decision.
Yeah, no kidding. So now I'm curious, you have been in this business for so many years, it's easy to lose count. If I were an up-and-coming singer in today's world and you were to give me advice, what would you say to me as far as getting started as a singer?
I think I'd go for once you kind of got your identity down without being someone else, hopefully, I'd go for the songs. If you can write or you can get close to knocking out something of your own. I mean, after you've done a couple of covers and that, you really should be going in a direction you know. Unless, of course, you enjoy doing that and you just want to be a singer. But if you wanted to go along that line, it was get some material, really. I think you can't really beat that.
I think that's key.
And beware of managers bearing false gifts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've often said that, I love the music still, and I was never crazy about the business side of the music business for that very reason. There's so many wolves in sheep's clothing.
Side. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you manage to keep treading water and survive that murky side of the business over the years?
We got bitten a couple of times, but we was extremely too trusting. And I guess we was at an age where you go, yeah, let's do that. Oh, and everything's wonderful and fine. And one day you're going to go, what happened to that money that came in from blah, blah, blah? And you'll suddenly go, hang on, I haven't got any money. That's the real pitfall. I mean, if you can sidestep that one, find someone you can actually trust, who's trustworthy, you'll be a very lucky person.
I agree 100%, and that is a rare commodity indeed. Yeah. Well, once again, the new album is coming out very soon, and it's going to be 3 separate releases. I believe the first one is September 6th, and then we have...
So the album's September 6th. That comes out, next week.
Right. Yeah. And then the second release would be September 13th, and then September 20th, and this is on Casablanca.
I didn't know they was releasing anything else. So.
Yeah, so Casablanca has, with the PR, they sent me these
I've
3
got
dates.
you. Sorry, we're in America. I thought we was in Europe. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah. America, do you know where your children are? Yeah, so the new album is coming out very soon, and I highly encourage everybody to check it out. I've seen a couple of the videos, and it's just wonderful music. So thanks once again, Phil, for taking the time out of your day to do this with me, and I'm so glad we could do this. Until next time, my friend, cheers.
Oh, well, thank you, Tommy.
Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a one-man production, meaning that I've done all the work, including recording, editing, guest acquisition, etc. And check out the articles based on my interviews at 519 Magazine. That's 519magazine.com. The theme song for Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a clip from my original composition, The Burn, all rights reserved. If you enjoy the show and you'd like to help us keep it going, why don't you click on the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. We really appreciate it. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, cheers. And check out the articles based on my interviews at 519 Magazine. That's 519magazine.com.